Hi, guys, and welcome back to now the 10th episode of the weekly review here with the Terriers Talk. We are once again joined by Jack this week, and a largely impressive week for Huddersfield Town, some may say. We've got the two games that we're going to cover with Bournemouth and the Forest game that was yesterday, and we're also going to touch upon the statement from Phil that happened midweek. So yeah, it's been a massively positive week with a lot coming out from the club about the future and obviously the two games. So I mean, yeah, let's kind of get on with the Bournemouth game. The lineup was pretty much as expected it to be, but there was the addition of Rolando Aarons to the bench. So what do you think that really means for the injury list now, Jack? Do you think that means that we're getting a lot stronger coming into the
Yeah,
last few games of the season where it'll really matter?
yeah. It's the injury list is getting shorter week on week. Obviously, we had a couple more coming back just after the Bournemouth game, which we'll touch on later. But yeah, 100% Aaron's. We know how good of a player he is. We've seen it, and it's really it was a shame to losing to injury. He's been out for a long time now, actually. So it was good to have him back, and I'm sure he'll be important for the last four games of the season. Didn't feature against Forest, but he did against Bournemouth. But yeah, it's huge to have Rolando back, and it's good to see the injury list getting smaller. But yeah, onto the actual Bournemouth game, and as has been the case so many times this season, it wasn't a good start. And I'll let Jay talk about sort of the opening 15, 20 minutes of the game.
Yeah, I agree. We had a very shaky first 15, 20 minutes. We didn't have the ball much, but when we did, I think we were disgraceful on the ball, especially Keogh. He did redeem himself later on, but in the first 15 minutes, he passed the ball to their front line twice, and that could have ended in two goals. And I think that's something we need to work on, especially next season. We need to sharpen up on those first 15 minutes. And we'll discuss it later because I think it does take us at least 45 minutes to actually get started and provide some threat. And on the 15th minute, Keogh gifted it to, I'm not sure who it was, on the halfway line. And it's been the same thing all season where we don't pick up our markers. I think Schofield parries it out, and who else but Philip Billing? It's a good header, but it's a header any footballer should make, and it helps when he's 6'8". I think we gave Billing way too much time, and not long afterwards we had another defensive mistake. Ben, I'll let you move on to that, and this time it was Romani Evans-Green.
Yeah, I mean, Romani's a player that I really like, and I think he is one of the best centre backs that the club has in terms of kind of the age to quality of the player, and he's only going to get better over time. But he showed that he still has a little bit of rust to his game. He's tried to play the ball into the midfield, which is something that we've seen all season with the defence. We've tried to play out from the back. It works sometimes. It provides some beautiful football, but at the same time, if players don't pick up on the passes, then it can be absolutely costly because there's little to no coverage at the back when you're trying to play out from the back. And there's three players that are near the ball that Romani's played. None of them have latched onto it apart from the Bournemouth player. And it comes to Solanke, and there's not really much you can do against Don Solanke when he's in the form that he's in at the moment, and he scores and makes it 2-0. Arguably, Schofield potentially saves that on another day, as he was kind of close to it, but it's an absolutely brilliant finish and just proves kind of the quality of players you now start to need in the Championship, because there's so many good players in that Bournemouth side, and that they're not even nailed on to get into the automatic promotion spots, which just proves kind of the level of the football now in the Championship. And it's something that if we want to be in that kind of picture next season, we're going to have a look at players and be really kind of ruthless and say then they're either going to make it or they're not going to make it, and help us back to where the club said they wanted to be 2 or 3 years ago when Phil took over the club.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, back to the Bournemouth game, and so we got to half time, and one of the poorest performers on the pitch, Isaac and Benzi, got taken off for Rolando Aarons, who we mentioned earlier. And I think we've all come to the conclusion that Isaac Mbenza's time at Huddersfield Town is effectively over. He's not fighting anymore. He's not trying anymore. He's just not playing well anymore. And it's quite sad because he'd done fantastically for us, especially pre-Christmas and even shortly after that, I suppose. But I just think it's time to accept now that he's gone. His head's gone, and he probably won't feature for us again. And I'm not sure if I'm happy or sad about that, but there we go. And Rolando did really well when he came on for a player who's been out for so long. But yeah, just in the second half, it did take us quite a while to kick on. We hit the bar quite early on. Lewis O'Brien bursting into the box as he tends to do. How much didn't go in, I'm not sure because it sort of bounced along the line. But yeah, it was unfortunate. But around probably like 75th, 80th minute, we managed to pull one back, and it was an unlikely score to say the least. James, someone I know you're a massive fan of, as are we all. So I'll let you talk about the goal scorer.
Yeah, I celebrated that goal like we scored 2 goals because I think the last time Jonathan Hogg scored a goal was it Brentford 4 or 5 years ago? Barnsley, that was it.
Season, I think.
And what a feeling! It's a good ball from Sorba. If
it was Dwayne.
If that routine was meant to pull off, and I'll just touch on Sorba before we go into Hoggy's goal. And he came on, and in open play he looked sharp, but there was no end product. And I think we touched on that when it was just me and Ben last week. And I think that's something we're going to be saying for a long time, because for a non-league player to step up to the Championship is a big step. But we won't dwell on that too much because Jonathan Hogg scored a goal. And it was a brilliant header. And I think then that just gave us a kick up the backside. And unfortunately, it just wasn't enough because, again, we leave it too late. And that's something we really need to work on in the off-season, because we can't be letting Leeds slip for 75, 80 minutes and relying on a centre mid, a central defensive mid to score our goals. So I think that's kind of it for the Bournemouth game. It was encouraging towards the back end, but again, we need to show a bit more fight. But saying that, it was the expected result. Coming off a 7-0 defeat kind of 7-8 days prior, it was a good test of character, and I think the players did quite well, bar the individual mistakes. So we can take some positives out of that game, definitely. I'll let you kind of move on to the statement, Jack, because there was a lot of promising kind of quotes in there from Phil, wasn't there?
Yeah, of course. I think there was a lot of talk about the season cards, and we actually ran a poll on our Twitter, you might have seen, and 70% of people, I think just shy of 200 people who voted, said that they are planning on renewing the season cards, which is quite a positive number, I suppose, and I think it's testament to, it echoes what Phil was saying in his statement. But just moving away from that one, you mentioned how he still backs Carlos. You mentioned that he recognises what's gone wrong and that we're going to try obviously we're going to steer away from what we did wrong this next time out, providing we stay in this league, which is looking more and more likely. But it was quite a positive statement overall. He mentioned bringing in the sort of players to fit this system that we try to build, which Ben touched on earlier about the players that are good quality for this league. So he said it now. What he needs to do now is follow up on it and deliver back Carlos in the summer, bring in some solid players, bring in some good players who will fit what we want to do, and we can hopefully push up that table this time around. But yeah, all in all, it was a really, it was a positive statement. I know he's got his critics as Phil, but I think it was good reading for me anyway. But anyway, so going away from that and onto the Nottingham Forest game, Ben, there was some really good team news beforehand, which Carlos had mentioned in his press conference, that Josh Koroma, and I think Harry Toffolo said it on Boothie's Beer and Banter actually, that he'd be back. So how big was that, having Toff back starting and Koroma just his presence on the bench?
it is brilliant news because Karoma's obviously not played since December, and we've missed a player that provides goals. And yes, it may only be 6 goals that he's played, but in the 4 months that he's been playing in the season, and he's playing from out wide, and not as a striker, 6 goals is absolutely quality. And for a player that was on loan and didn't really prove much last season at Rotherham, it's absolutely brilliant to see. And the fact that he's now back and will be in the best fitness, hopefully, of his career in time for next season will be absolutely brilliant news for us. If we can keep him, that is, because there will be people that want him. But I think Phil mentioned it on the statement that the club's in a good financial situation, so I don't think there'll be any pressure on us to sell. But Toff starting is something absolutely major for the club as well. We work so well in a 5-back and a 3-back, and Toffs and Pippa are absolutely essential to that. Although you can try and put Aaron Rowe there, you can put Duani there, they're just nowhere near as good as Toff and Pippa. And that's been proved week in, week out, really, since we've had either of them missing. The system just doesn't seem to work. It doesn't seem to click. But now that we've got 2 players in their natural positions that are both very strong going forward and are good enough at this level at coming back, I think it is brilliant news. And we kind of saw how much of an impact Toff's made, not just kind of on the pitch with his playing, but he just seemed to command the team on Saturday, and that's something that we've missed. Although we've still got Hogg, we've kind of always had that 2 kind of leaders on the pitch in Schindler and Hogg for the past few seasons, and I think Toff is going to take that role of the second kind of captain player, and that's something that you need in the squad when you're playing a 3-5-2 or a 5-back, because having that person that's going to lead the defence in 2 positions, it's brilliant. It really is, and obviously he's been massive for us all season. So the fact that he's back now, like with Karoma, the fact that we're going to have him in hopefully peak fitness levels for the start of next season, it's really exciting. It really is. But we also did have the news that Mbenza had been dropped out of the squad completely. Normally, there's a tweet saying, for example, Pritchard's out with a groin injury, something like that. There's nothing stating what's happened with Mbenza. So is that something deeper, do you reckon, lads?
Yeah, I think so. And also, we did a bit of scouting work. I'm not sure who actually said this, but we're all in a Huddersfield Town group chat, and someone noted quite interestingly that Mbenza had taken Huddersfield Town out of his Instagram bio. That probably says it all. If his body language doesn't say enough on the pitch, that probably confirms it. And like Jack mentioned before, I don't know how to feel, because we know on his day, and I hate this phrase, but he backs it up. On his day, he's a quality player. He can be at any side on his day, but unfortunately for him and us, he hasn't had many good days at Huddersfield Town. And for £10 million, 2-3 seasons ago, it's not a good return. So I think the quicker he goes, I'm being brutally honest, the better, because we need to kind of clear those personas out of our club who are just here to give 50%. Another one of those is Alex Pritchard. I think the less said about him, the better. Another apparent injury, and I think the sooner he leaves the club, the better. But we'll move on to the first 20 minutes, and it was not encouraging at all. We didn't have much of the ball, but when we did have the ball, we gave it back to them within 5-6 passes. I thought Keogh was disgraceful with his ball retention. He handed, I think, 2 or 3 loose passes straight on the plate to their front line, and it, without Schofield, 1 or 2 times it could have been 1 or 2-0 within 20 minutes. And then me and Jack were just speaking before the game. Before we went live to film. Fraser Campbell went off, and we were both quite impressed with Danny Ward. And we said it was his best game in the Town shirt since his return. Just elaborate a bit on that, Jack, because he was really good, wasn't
he? Yeah, I think obviously just before Wardy's come on, we've been growing into the game after a poor sort of start, and Campbell's unfortunately had to go off. I think in winning a corner. He's done something to his shoulder that we haven't had an update yet, obviously, because it's only the day after. But so I can't really comment on that. But Wardy's come on. He's not had it's no secret he's had a bad time at Town so far, but he did. I thought he did quite well. All in all, obviously he had a hand in one of the goals that we'll touch on later. And he was dropping deep. He was doing what Fraser does. He was running when defending needed to be done. He was in at right back a couple of times. He was winning the ball. Yeah, so could have scored as well. It was a difficult chance on his weaker foot, but I was quite impressed with Wardy. But one of many good performances, and another good performer, Mr. Aaron Rowe, manages to put us 1-0 up. I don't want to say put on a plate because it was still a tough finish to do, but James Garner slips it in behind his own defence, and Aaron Rowe is the only one alive to it. Runs in behind, and Bryce Samba is a big, strong, solid goalkeeper, and to finish so perfectly like that, right in the side netting, it was a fantastic finish. My dad, who I was watching with, was thinking, I just thought I was going to miss, because you do see those miss, and for such a young man, 21 years of age, to tuck away his first championship goal like that is really impressive, and he put us in very good stead for the rest of the game. But Ben, do you want to talk about Aaron Rowe's performance and how brilliant it was?
I mean, it's been a week of good performances for Aaron Rowe. If you told me 2 years ago that Aaron Rowe would be where he is at the moment, I won't be in the conversation with you, because he didn't really look like he could be at this level 2 or 3 years ago. But it's just a massive credit to him. He's obviously put in the effort and he's put in the work to get to the level where he is. And his post-match interview, he said that he's been dreaming about scoring a goal like that for so long. And you could tell how much it meant to him. It's by no means an easy chance. You see other players miss them week in, week out, really, from a one-on-one situation, but he slotted it so coolly into the far corner, and he just looked like a finish that you'd see from somebody that's 5-6 years older than him. The composure that must take against a very, very good keeper in Bryce Samba just kind of shows the level that he's working at. And I think that's credit to him, but also credit to Carlos, because our entire youth system it just seems to have come on massively since he's joined, and whether that's because of the work he's done with the youth teams at Leeds or what, but just across the board, our younger players coming through, like, there's been an emphasis on them coming through, with whether that's just because of the injuries or whatnot, but it's been massively helpful. And Rose scored a brilliant goal, and he's potentially going to be one of the big players next season if Mbenza goes, and he will be looking to fill in that role that will be vacant.
Yep, and I'm confident he can do that, because the signs have showed that he's a top quality player, and I hope we do keep on to him and keep him quiet, although it probably will be hard. And another player who is frustrating, but has quality, Juninho Bacuna. He is probably the most frustrating player in that starting lineup. Maybe Dwayne Holmes, since he came back, he's not been the best, but Bacuna is very frustrating. But yesterday he showed what he can do in that goal. I don't think much really happened in the second half, but that was credit to our defence, and Bacuna took his chance. It was laid off nicely by Ward, but that's probably the least effective assist ever, because he did it all by himself. And to hit that ball as sweet as he did from 30 yards out was just a credit to how talented he is. And I think that kind of finishes the game off for us. And it's a very, 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 very valuable 3 points. I think that's our second away win since 31st of October at Millwall.
Yep.
It's not a good start, but we move. I think another few points, and that's us playing championship football next year. And I really hope it is, because with that statement from Phil, and if he backs it up, I think a top 10 finish looks likely. And I think this is the best time to move on to our next 2 games, with Barnsley coming up on Wednesday night. I think it's 7:45 kickoff. It's going to be a toughie, isn't it? Barnsley are nothing like the team we played last year. I think they're 6th place now, and they've got a good chance of progressing through the playoffs and doing a good job. And they've been a very, very hard side to break down. I think they went on a massive unbeaten run. I'm not sure if that still stands. Not really a Barnsley enthusiast, but it's going to be a tough game, isn't it, Ben? We're going to have to show a lot of character to get something out of it.
Yeah, I mean, just off the back of what you said about us being nearly safe, at times I think I've been a bit pessimistic with kind of looking at how the table is set, but we are, I believe, 8 points clear of Rotherham, although they still have the game in hand. But we're 4 points clear of Derby, who just look quite poor at the moment. They really do. The Barnsley game is absolutely massive. You know, a side that last season we're down at where we are. And I mean, that just can serve as inspiration as what we can do next season if we're backed. And, you know, as much as it pains me to say it, I think that level can be achieved, but it's so reliant on the backing, and it's so reliant with just being so strict with the formation and things like that we still seem to struggle on. So there's a big pre-season coming up. But I think it's going to be a massively tough game. Everyone knows that Barnsley are probably going to end up in the playoffs. They've been absolutely quality this season throughout, whereas we have been, you know, we've had our games. We're like Janino Bakuna. We've had our times where we're all right, and then the rest of the time we've been woeful, to put it kindly. And it's worrying that potentially, you know, it's a Yorkshire derby. There's not much to play for really in terms of the Yorkshire derby, but more to play for in the terms of that they could pretty much seal the playoffs with that. We can pretty much seal staying up this season. So it's going to be an absolute nail-biting game for both parties really, and it just proves like that every game in the Championship is you need to be performing at the top level. And if we perform how we did against Forest, then I think there's potentially a very good chance that we can pick up a point or all three, to be honest. Would you agree with that, Jack? Or
Yeah, I would. In the nicest way possible, I hate Barnsley because it reminds me of how good we were in 16, 17. And I look at that side and all I can think of is, oh, well, he's like Schindler, he's like Naki Wells, you know. And I think they've got a lot of fantastic players. I think Daryl Beakey, I'm a massive fan of up top in the American International now, obviously. And they've got a really good squad. The 3 centre halves are great. Callum Styles, what a player. But anyway, it'll be a tough one. It'll be a really tough one. I think we'll probably match up the 3. I think we'll go 3 again because that's that'll be the theme. So we'll match their 3 at the back. But yeah, it'll be a really tough game. It'll be an interesting game, a very tactical game because both managers are very tactically adept. So I honestly think maybe a point, maybe a draw, a 1-1 draw or something like that. Yeah, definitely take that. But yeah, we've also got Blackburn away at Ewood Park this week. Flashback to Naby Starr's brace earlier on in the season, but Blackburn are in free fall basically. They have just beat Derby. Thank you to that. If you ain't watching Blackburn, I don't know, but no, they before that they'd been playing really poorly. I don't know. I didn't watch the Derby Blackburn game, but I don't know how good they were. But Tony Mowbray, from an outsider's perspective, really lost it at Blackburn. I'd be surprised if he was there next season. So again, it's another game where we can go and pick up another 3 points and really secure our place in the Championship for next season. But again, that'll be another tough game as they always are in the league. But I think that's a good place to leave it for today, having previewed those 2 games. So thank you for watching this episode of the Terriers Talk, episode 10, double figures on the weekly review now, which is nice. Again, like and subscribe if you haven't already. Share this around, and we will see you next time on Weekly Review episode 11, covering Barnsley and Blackburn. So see you later, guys. Have a good one.